this is going to be a little controversial, so I'm going to do it in an entertaining way as well. But Mike, you just really screwed me over, man. Anyway, so I wanted to start with this picture actually, which is well known as 2001: A Space Odyssey. Got to 2001, I was like, where the fuck is my space station? This talk could be summarized as where the fuck is my space station? The other alternative title is, even if we had Starship, we're going to launch junk. And that's really what this talk is about, is what are we putting up in space? And we can't actually really do anything that we imagine we can. So I'm going to do this a little bit in the context of pop culture as well, to kind of really try and frame the gap, I think the capability gap between what we'd like to do, what we think we can do, and what we can actually do, and how bad that really is. So anyway, this is starting with some junk. This is some junk that my friend Will Marshall and I built once. This is a 2-generation prior version of Planet Lab satellites. This is called NeoSat. This was a pile of junk that we built with interns that we thought we could send to an asteroid and do a prospecting reconnaissance flyby with. It was a prototype demonstrating ultra low cost off-the-shelf components. This thing became unreasonably popular for some reason and ended up in a lot of articles, and it's hugely embarrassing. But remember, this is actually, a photo was taken at the Bill conference, yeah, down in Los Angeles, and we got laughed at because people were like, this is not credible, you can't do anything with it. We kept pursuing the idea. We came up with this idea of PhoneSat, which is just put a phone, which is a really highly capable device. We can drop those things. They're pretty robust. Humans can hold them, drop them on concrete most of the time. Really robust platform for something in space. It's basically free. We put them in space. People still didn't really believe us. So then we did Planet, and then suddenly NASA wanted to hire us back again. So I left Planet about 8 years ago, and I've spent the last 8 years as a VC, and I've looked at, like some of our friends in the room, several thousand companies, probably about 2,000 or 3,000 pitches a year. And I ran into a guy at South by Southwest the other day, about 3 weeks ago, and he walked up and he said, "You're Chris, right? You're that space investor that doesn't invest in space companies." And I'm like, yes. So the reason for that is that in the 8 years that I've been at DCVC, I've probably done fewer than 8 space investments. And I often wonder what a full-time space investor or investment fund or a space angel fund, what are they actually doing? What are they investing? Because I don't understand it. And so for me, one of the way I looked at it was, this is one of the very first ones I did, was the why I went to DCVC was what I was offered was an opportunity to rearrange the furniture to try and build our space reality, build the space future that we want here. So one of the things, to Mike's point, was we needed better launch. I love your idea, Mike. I'd like to talk to you. But Rocket Lab was one of the first investments I did out of the gate. That is, of course, pretty successful. I think, don't know really what their future looks like with Starship, but they've definitely got a niche doing small and medium launch. But then I went back to this idea of like the space station, and this is what I've been thinking about for the last 7 years is, where is my space station and how do we build this? So this is a early concept of Von Braun's space station. And this was made out of vinyl, which is a terrible material, but you inflate it and it's basically a jumping castle in space and you could live there. Why do we have that? It seems pretty easy. Back to that picture of that NeoSat thing. Why isn't anyone building a extremely unsafe vinyl inflatable space station that would at least try out and live on? So I've been puzzling over that. And then trying to look at the gap between what we can actually do in space in terms of on-orbit assembly and manufacturing. This is basically the only thing that's ever been 3D printed in space. And it was a wrench that was made by a bunch of our friends at this company called Made in Space. And they tested, rack-mounted 3D printers to deal with some of the issues of like, how does plastic melt and form balls and actually adhere in space and all of those interesting little niche science questions. And ultimately they had this idea for replacement parts. That was still about 10 years ago. I don't think the ISS has yet mainstreamed the use of 3D printers to build replacement parts on the station. They just don't use it. And so that really didn't go anywhere. Another example, this is from the James Bond movie. I forgot which one right now. One of the early ones. Yeah, no, it's not Moonraker. It's one of the really early ones. It'll come back to me in a sec. Anyway, You Only Live Once. Only Live Twice, sorry, that one. Is this idea of like you could go up and steal someone's vehicle with a larger vehicle and do everything like this. But we just really, other than our little friend, the X-37B, don't really have anything in space that really can go up and do any of these complex things like rendezvous and docking and intercepting and grappling and moving. So how are we going to clean up debris? We don't have anything to really do that. Right now, we're looking at some really bizarre edge cases where like, well, if satellites had standardized docking adapters and our debris removal thing had that standardized docking adapter, maybe we could go up and grab the stuff and then we could do it. So let's solve the problem maybe with future satellites with a standard that doesn't exist yet. But right now we can't do anything like this in space. Another thing that we can't do is this is going to play a little mini video here. It's a beautiful video. Oh, well, here's a different one. We'll start with this one. So this we all know is Star Wars. So this thing, okay, there's a thing on the space station called spheres. It's a MIT/NASA Ames project. It's a little sphere like this. It flies around with a little CO2 thruster. Basically doesn't do anything. There is no way, there's no entity on this planet that I know that can produce a device that has that level of control authority, precision movement, precision navigation, responsiveness. And so here's my real question. Would NASA ever let, and this is why I wish this video played, because this is because I'm an equal opportunity space person, this is a Star Trek video of a .8 repair droid, but it doesn't play. So anyway, these are repair droids that could fly out and repair one of the spaceships in the Star Trek universe. Would NASA ever let an autonomous vehicle fly around and orbit the space station and do repairs? And the answer is hell no, because we really, really suck at this. We suck at it. So what are the droids we seek? Well, there's a whole bunch of things that I think, and I'll just skip through these because you can all read. The bunch of things that I think we really, as a human race, as a species, absolutely suck at. And until we get these things right and have an order of magnitude improvement in all of these, we're not going to build large structures. We're not going to do 3D printing in space. We're not going to mine asteroids. We're not even going to get to the asteroids. So this is my challenge. If companies could do this, I might do more than one space deal a year. Hey, I had 5 seconds left. You robbed me.
I gave you 1 minute.
Oh, so I rushed my minute.
We have Mike in the back.
Yeah.
When I think about why astronauts are still walking around on the outside of the space station, I don't think that it has to do with a lack of technical capability, but institutional inertia and the fact that the astronauts love doing that. And that a bunch of the reasons why the space station is still built on 1980s technology.
80s?
70s, excuse me. And is just down to the fact that there's an enormous institutional conservatism at work there.
Yeah. I mean, largely it's probably, human factors probably drives a lot of it, which is the people on board, so we just can't take any risk, but that cascades through the whole thing from the design 40 years ago to implementation. So yeah, over there.
I would like to make a comment on what you are showing here. Well, I work for a company that we do AI for anything from satellite to spacecraft to healthcare. So one of the major concerns that we are seeing is that people do not trust any sort of AI techniques for supporting anything in space. So I do see the limitation, and I really hope that there will be more opening, there's going to be a more open mindset in the future, because this is the direction where we are heading to.
Yeah.
However, those systems seems, globally speaking, that they lack of trustworthiness in, in action. So this is a huge limitation.
Yeah, I think that's a ripe area for improvement, because a lot of these control systems right now are purely deterministic. And so no one's really put AI on the edge of every single one of these devices and seeing what happens. I think that's super interesting. So,
What's your challenge?
My challenge, how do we make stuff that doesn't suck?
Do you want to specify stuff more? Or?
Well, it's just all of the space things, all the widgets. How do we make our space widgets not suck?
You're asking a lot.
Huh?
You're asking a lot.
Sorry, John.
So are you looking into any lunar regolith mining, refining companies? Is anything?
I've looked at a couple, but one of the things I didn't really have time to talk about is just how a lot of these business plans don't close, right? So there's a lot of science things and a lot of things that probably high net worth individuals should go pursue, but they're not businesses. So as a VC, there's an issue where things just don't really meet any of the fundamental criteria for real investment. And again, that's one of the many reasons why we do so few space deals, is because the business plans don't close. Doesn't mean it's not a good idea. They're different things. Yeah.
Do you mainly reject it at the stage where they don't close and you're like, okay, no, we're just going to do like the equivalent is like the supercharged.
Well, I try to look at just how long is this scientific journey going to be, and if it's going to be cold fusion, then we're like, sorry, we just don't have time for this. So yeah, we don't. We like to say, for instance, in nuclear power, we do fission, but we don't do fusion. Why? Because there's just no path there yet, and it's fun, it's interesting, people should do it, but it's not really what I think a VC should be doing. So
Thank you so much.
no worries. Thanks, everyone.